Wait, is D-Max not showing up?
No, I told you.
He's going through stuff. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, let me go make coffee.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
I'm on my phone already, so I can just mute.
Okay. Alright.
Fucking slave driver, piece of
Hi, everyone.
You of all people deserve
By the way,
Beavers,
leave that in
from
the
where
recording. I want them to know how bad you are.
Jesus, show up at 8 o'clock. That's all I said.
Now recording.
Welcome to Now Recording. I'm being yelled at by beavers. I'm Matt Pitt. That's Mickey Mitch.
Hello, it's just Mitch. It's not Mickey. Shut up.
And that's Beavers, who went to go get coffee as soon as we start the recording, like he always does. Perfect timing. Today we're going to be talking about something that I've kind of watched from afar that I do not know a lot about. Something like Xylee has covered a lot. Something that I think Nick has talked about a bit, and that's mainly the subject of Lav, or Lavlune. She is a Destiny. She was a Destiny orbiter who had interactions with Destiny, had a somewhat of an affair with Destiny, and completely flipped on him. Ended up turning to Mr. Girl, which Mr. Girl wrote this massive article on Destiny, and Lav kind of jumped on that train. And Lav has been pretty interesting throughout this small span of time, in which she has, I've kind of noticed she's kind of changed personality. She's turned into she went full turf. And then I was researching her, and she goes even farther back, like within the Discord servers and stuff. Now, I don't know a lot about it. I'm pretty unaware of Lav, aside from like a few streams that I've watched. Obviously, Mitch and Beavers don't know about her as well, other than like she's cute. That's about as far as.
Thank you for including Beavers in that.
I have to say, right?
Yeah.
I know she's pretty hot.
Yeah.
All right. Don't say
yeah.
I don't know anything, Matthew.
But that's about as far as we go. However, we've brought in two guests that are more aware of Lav, who have interacted with Lav before. I believe you would call them Destiny orbiters. If not, I apologize. But I'm here with Stardust and Zonia. How you ladies doing today?
Doing all right. Hello.
Doing good.
So I wanted to so how well do you guys know Lav?
So I would say of the two of us, I think Zonia is more in tune with everything that Lav does. Zonia is really good at like checking Lav on her inconsistencies, her lies, things like that. But we've both interacted with Lav, I think, an extended amount. And we've both been on the receiving end of some rather unpleasant interactions, though again I would say Zonia more so than even me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've had, in terms of interactions with her, enough to, well, originally when I met her, I had kind of jumped onto the tail end of a panel that she was on to sort of meme around and such, but then to also just kind of like offer support for her in her. She came out as leaving the OnlyFans and sex work kind of industry in total, and had a lot of criticisms of OnlyFans and sex work. And I was supportive of what it was that she was saying and offered my support at the tail end of a Chud Logic panel that she was on. And Chud Logic had gone over a video that she had made, like sort of an amateurish video essay talking about why she was leaving sex work and what her criticisms of it were. And he built an impromptu panel off the back of that after reacting to her video. And that was where I jumped on and met her. And that was my introduction to Lav. Since then, I had actually interacted with her. I actually had her on my channel, and we had a conversation back in early October where there were a lot of different people accusing her of being a TERF and her having transphobic takes. And so I figured I would have her on and have a chat with her about this stuff and kind of get her thoughts, try to understand her perspective and where she's coming from. And by the end of it, I had determined at the time that I didn't think that she was a TERF, and that I felt like I understood where she was coming from and why it is that she had come to the conclusion she was coming to. And she seemed good faith at the time. But that was sort of where our more friendly interactions ended, because it was like a month later, because we didn't really have much in the way of interactions between that point and where she started to have a falling out with Destiny and his community. And I ended up on sort of the opposite side of the fence from her in terms of what was going on in late October. Well, I guess it was early November, because of the way in which that she had used Anna, a friend of Destiny's and a former hookup of hers as well, or more than, I guess more, it's come out that it was more than a hookup, it was a relationship. But she really aggressively threw Anna under the bus, and that's what got me to no longer be charitable with her, and I kind of stopped and distanced myself from her because of that, what she has done, where she was getting a lot of pressure for the claims that she was making about Destiny, referring to him as the Harvey Weinstein of Twitch. And when the pressure was building, again, on a Chud Logic panel where people were pressing her on the allegations, she ended up basically lumping a bunch of the blame onto Anna, saying that Anna had manipulated her into believing those things, and that Anna was crazy, and that everybody knows that she's crazy, and that that she shouldn't listen to her, and nobody should listen to her, and started kind of like lumping the blame onto Anna and throwing her under the bus and using the stigma of her being, quote, crazy, to deflect a bunch of criticism. And I felt that was pretty messed up. Anna is somebody that I like, and I had some experience with her in my community as a person who I feel is a very genuine and very friendly person. And I know some of the problematic details of her relationship with Steven, but I ended up, I felt like Lav went way too far with that and used her as a scapegoat to get a bunch of the heat off of her for the claims that she was making about Steven. And so that was kind of like that was where I stopped. I distanced myself from her. I didn't want to offer charitability anymore and just kept my distance. But then we had several experiences after that, which were much more antagonistic. And that was where we kind of more built and under a detailed understanding of each other in not so generous terms.
Yeah. Were there any early red flags that you saw when interacting with her at first?
Yeah, actually, not long after I had my conversation with her in early October, I had gone over a series of debates that she had. She was getting a lot of pushback in Destiny's community for being weaselly with her debate tactics, and waffling and goalpost moving and everything. And so I went over a bunch of her debates and looked into it and explored what it was she was doing. And I actually came up with sort of like a list of things that I saw her doing and problems that I observed, and where I thought, this is something that she could address. And I gave her the highlight of it and said, hey, I don't know if you're interested, but these are it's like a critique I have. I think it might be helpful for you. Here you go. And I gave it to her. And that was it was that analysis that I did where I started to realize that a lot of her behavior seems like it's based around, she wants to be liked, and she wants people to think that she's knowledgeable and that she's informed and that she is an authority on things. But she doesn't build her way to those things. Instead, she kind of comes out the door very bold and with loud claims. And then when you're in a space like this, where people are big into debate and analysis and critique, well, inevitably, you're going to get a whole bunch of people who are going and saying, what the heck are you talking about? You're completely wrong on this. You're talking at your ass. And they'll pick it apart. And instead of her going and stopping and saying, oh, yeah, I kind of jumped the gun on that one, I don't really know this subject all that well, she would instead try to misdirect and put blame onto others and attack people and move goalposts and such, and do whatever she could to not have to open up and say, I didn't actually know what I was talking about and I jumped the gun on this. And that was sort of like the first real sign to me that, okay, there's something else going on here. And that was when I started to piece it together, and combined with some things that she had said about other content creators and big names and micro celebrities and stuff in various discords, like in Chudlogic's Discord, how she just name dropped Hassan out of nowhere, said that he had slept with her 17-year-old friend when he was 24. The way that she just dropped that out of nowhere when everybody was just talking about Dragon Ball Z memes at the time, it and a bunch of other things that I had observed, it seemed to me that so much of this is built around her wanting people to be impressed by her and just kind of coming up with like a story or a claim or some assertion to impress people. And I heard her do it in several Discord calls that we had gone over on my streams, and seen it in lots of Discord chats. And it seems like a pretty consistent pattern with her. And then when she gets called on it, of course, she turns to misdirection, laying blame at other people's feet, attacking, etc.
Well, if I could say one thing,
yeah, go ahead, Stardust.
What I would say is like the biggest, like probably the quickest way to like get yourself into trouble in the debate sphere kind of space is to claim that you're like an authority on knowledge and any subject, really. It's like the quickest way to get people calling you on your bullshit. Like never do it. Never claim to be an authority on anything unless you're like 110% sure. And Lav was like 45% sure and would claim to be an authority on tons of things. As far as like my story with her, I don't know if you guys want that much from me, but
no, go for it.
Okay. So I think if I recall correctly, I think I first met Lav. Basically, Destiny has his Discord open to certain people, and you can jump into the voice chat. And occasionally I would try to, join in over there and like partake in conversations and things. And I initially kind of met Lav because she was somebody who she had some pretty feminist thoughts. She was similar to me in that she viewed sex work as a negative, like a net negative. And I found that interesting. She's feminist. She has the same view of sex work. I can't give exact dates because I'm really bad with dates, but essentially I would hear her talking and I would hear her making like similar points that I would make in things, but just making them terribly. So I would be kind of tempted to jump into the call and try to explain certain things that I felt like she wasn't explaining as well. And then sometimes I would just jump into the calls to like partake in whatever argument was happening at that time. And I know what it's like to be somebody who's generally on the receiving end of a lot of like animosity, which she was. So I would try to be pretty charitable to her and be pretty kind to her. And she always was kind of aggressive with me. After me and Mr. Girl had our falling out, the aggressiveness definitely like turned up a bit. Anytime I was in a call with her, she would be sure to like make a jab at me over, false accusations. Even though like what she ended up doing ended up being much worse.
Right.
And, I ended up confronting Mr. Girl in one of these calls with Destiny about the way that he treated me in our friendship. And I kind of like really spoke my piece there. And I think that's where things started to go downhill because she was friends with Mr. Girl. And she basically, after I had my whole spiel, said that this is kind of looking like the Anna situation, which was like the worst thing to say. Because Destiny was there, I was there, we were all very intimately aware of the Anna situation. We were all pretty involved with it.
If I could just stop you one second, just because I don't know if our audience might not know.
I have no fucking clue what you're talking about.
Okay.
Well, how does it feel, Beavis? How does it feel? How does it feel?
Hold on. Let me. Anna was a Destiny orbiter who was accusing Destiny of being harassing her, doxing her. She called him a dark triad, and she would continuously stream about Destiny over and over and over, almost like
an abuser.
Yeah, and calling him an abuser. There was a lot of memes on our side of the spectrum of commentary where we would just call this woman crazy because that's what she kind of came off as crazy. So with Mr. Girl calling you basically an Anna situation, she was comparing you to the crazy accuser that was Anna at that time, correct?
Yeah. So Lav was the one who accused me of like acting like Anna, with the Mr. Girl situation, even though I was confronting him about our friendship. And she said this seems kind of like the Anna situation, and Dusty was like, "What the fuck are you talking about? This is nothing like that." And that's when things really kind of, people were mad at me, right? And probably rightfully so, right? But that's when, as soon as she said that, the audience like immediately turned. And yeah, anybody who's aware of the Anna situation knows that it's not even remotely closed, right? I'm not somebody who's like constantly talking about Mr. Girl. I didn't have like an intimate sexual relationship with the guy. I'm not going around, accusing him of crazy shit and saying that he's stalking me and doxing me and all this stuff, right? So first she starts like she says that it's like Anna. Destiny pushes back on that, and a whole bunch of people push back on that. Then later on, she and Mr. Girl decide to talk to Anna, and Mr. Girl decides to write this whole piece on Destiny. And that ends up being a really weird twist because at one point they're accusing me of being like Anna as if it's a bad thing. Then they are taking Anna's side as if, she is, justified in her feelings. Then they turn on her again, and Lav is putting all the blame on Anna for everything that fell out with her, Mr. Girl, and Anna, and all of the stuff surrounding that. And Zonia can probably detail that better than I can. We've had Lav and I have had some back and forths. I've tried to continue to extend charitability to her. She has, for some reason, in a call with Big Tech, somebody who explicitly reported Mr. Girl and got his channel banned off YouTube, she called me masculine, more masculine than her, based off of my mannerisms, which makes no sense because she's more aggressive than me. She, I don't know. It's just she's insulted Zonia. She's insulted Brianna Wu. I guess I'm trying to figure out exactly where. Like, I tried to be neutral with her, but I don't even know where to go from this point.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is she was just ultra aggressive, basically, and saw herself as an authority in a lot of these situations, and it was a big attention seeker, basically.
And probably the worst part, I would say, isn't even so much her aggression. Obviously, overconfident aggression is going to get you in trouble in a space that's debate oriented, right? Inevitably. But that wasn't even so much the problem. The attacks were bad. Obviously very underhanded attacks, usually attacking one's immutable traits and such. One of the wildest things I find about Lav is that she rails against misogyny all the time and calls herself a feminist. But I would argue she is one of the most misogynistic personalities in this space that I've ever interacted with. So that's another thing, that she's pretty notoriously misogynistic toward other women and trans women. But I would say the worst thing about her is she doesn't just attack and doesn't just respond. She will then lump on top of that allegations and do other things on top of that. She has sexually harassed me several times.
Oh, wow.
She makes claims about me. Her big claim about me is that I'm an autogynephilic trans woman who masturbates, who imagines her when I'm masturbating or something like that. That's the kind of shit that she does. But then she'll also, on top of that, just make up additional things. Like she'll not just attack somebody, but make up things about them. And in some cases like that, obviously people are going to be like, oh yeah, well, she's just playing very dirty in this kind of case, right? So she's saying some shit. But in other cases, it can actually seem very tangible and very real. So one of the things that she claimed was she claimed that Pixie, one of Destiny's orbiters, that she had sex with Destiny. She claimed that Destiny was trying to have sex or get into bed with Kelly Jean. And so these kinds of things don't seem as obviously like made up or just like playing dirty, right? These are things that sound, especially when she's talking about how she was close with Steven. Steven confided personal things to her, right? People will see that and hear it and think, oh, that sounds reasonable, especially considering her narrative is that Destiny is like this Harvey Weinstein of Twitch and has sex with all of his orbiters, her wording, by the way, all of his female orbiters. And so it becomes a more believable thing. The more hyperbolic stuff is tends to be pretty obvious and pretty pales in comparison to the things that seem more vanilla and more believable in the context of a narrative that Destiny sleeps with all of his female orbiters and is the Harvey Weinstein of Twitch. And those are sort of like the real problems, because there were a whole bunch of people who caught strays from that, who had really no reason to be even involved. Pixie wasn't really somebody that deserved any kind of attacks from Lav, and yet somehow caught strays out of nowhere. And suddenly everybody's talking about how Pixie had sex with Destiny, which ended up that wasn't actually true.
And
so
I think
those are the problems with. That's the biggest negative of her lump sum of bad personality traits.
Yeah, and I think an important point here is that she claims to be this like radical feminist, and all of her attacks tend to negatively impact women overwhelmingly, right? When you accuse a man of sleeping with a bunch of females, generally it's not seen as a negative for him. When you accuse a woman of sleeping with a man for clout or sleeping with a larger content creator, that's going to have negative impacts on the way that people perceive her. You have to know that as a radical feminist, right? You have to know like how the media treats females. The vast majority of her attacks victims tend to be female. And then she's talking about me being like Anna when she's the one who won't stop talking about Destiny for months now, right?
Yeah. Back to the accusations part. I was do you guys know who Sick is?
Yeah.
Yes.
I was watching his 2-hour and something video on. He mentioned a false accusation alleged false accusation that she made against some guy named Gabriel Gundacker.
Yeah.
Do you know anything about that stuff? Like, apparently she was making accusations before she even entered the Destiny community, and went viral on TikToker. Also, apparently she was shouted out by Billie Eilish because she's so she's found success before.
Yeah. Before she came to our space, she was like a roughly 700,000 TikTok follower TikToker, right?
Right.
And with the Gabriel Gundacker stuff, I've looked into some of that since Sick covered it. It's really interesting, the gradual evolution of the story as it became more sensational every time she retold it. She had been pretty well known before she came into the space. That was one of the conflicts. So when she and I kind of had our final falling out a few months ago, back in like late February, it was like I had distanced myself from her anyway. We weren't really interacting between December and February. But sort of like the final falling out was when I called her on her shit, because she was trying to say on Sixth Stream, actually, with me and with Reservoir, she was trying to say that she was just a nobody, and that the things that she was saying about like Hassan and other people, it was nobody knew about it because it was just her as a nobody talking in, as she put it, a private server, which it wasn't. It was a public server about these things. And that and it doesn't matter anyway. When you have a private server that's totally uncontrolled, like, it doesn't even matter. Even private servers, things get out. You start telling people, it gets out there, especially if you put it in text form.
Right.
So I confronted her on that, and I said, "No, it's bullshit. You were very well known," and she leaned on her fame when she started making appearances in this space.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, it was BS. She would, and that's one of the other weird things, or not weird, but like one of the things about her, she will lean on her micro celebrity status when it's convenient to, and then claim that she has no celebrity status when it's inconvenient to. So she would flip flop on this constantly, and then one day would be talking about how she's very well known and very well connected, and schmoozes with all these famous people, and some of her best friends are like famous Hollywood stars, well, Hollywood adjacent people and such. Like the 17-year-old, the supposed 17-year-old that Hassan slept with, is an extraordinarily famous person, by the way.
Yeah, I think I'm not going to say their name, but I think I've heard the name before. Like a very, very famous person, or you know, so which they were actually
so she
19
brag about that, about her fame and her adjacency to substantially like big entertainers and such. But then when it was inconvenient for her, and you point that out to her, that she was sitting there dropping names of people and then making up stories about the various people that she's name dropping, she'd go and say, well, I was a nobody. Nobody knew who I was. That stuff didn't get out anywhere until people went and intentionally started spreading it. And it's like, okay, you can't have your cake and eat it, right? You got to have, it's either you're a well-connected person who can name drop all these names and make up stories about them, or you're a nobody. Which one is it? Because it really looks like you're the former, not the latter.
Yeah. Stardust, you were saying something?
Yeah, I was just gonna clarify the 17-year-old friend, just so people know, wasn't actually 17 at the time, was apparently 19 at the time.
19.
Yeah, and one thing to note. Yeah, no problem. And one thing to note also, like, for as much as she claims that she's a nobody, she is willing to drop all the time that her husband is the CFO of Ridge
CMO.
Wallet, or CMO, sorry.
Yeah.
And that, and also, I mean, like, it's true that her name gets numbers, right? Like, Destiny having her on his stream got numbers, right? So it's not like she's nobody. So
yeah. I did want to ask: is it fair to criticize Destiny for interacting with these women and, like starting a sexual relationship with girls like these? Who, do you think there's like a learn from your mistakes type of criticism? Like, I've heard people criticize Destiny like that. Like get away from these women. They're psychotic. Is that criticism fair, or is that not valid?
I think he's received that criticism plenty, and I don't think he'll ever back away from it, right? I think I think most people will say, it's probably pretty unwise for you to interact with these people. But I think Destiny's stance on this is, like, one, it's my life, I'm going to do what I want. Two, I like interesting and weird people, and I like people who like make content. And these are the types of people that make content. These are the types of people that are interesting. And he'll very willingly own up to that. And if he likes his life interesting, I guess, like, what else can you say, right?
Yeah. The way I see it, musicians fuck groupies. The Hollywood stars fuck their fans. It's like, I don't really know how else to put it. Now, I'm not saying that like Destiny is like fucking his fans or anything like that. It's just that it seems like people farm their community for the people that they want to have casual sex with, right? If you're going to be somebody who dabbles in, not dabbles in, but like regularly indulges in casual sex and hookups and such, well, having a pool available to you is something that, like, it seems like it's a pretty common thing. I don't know if that's like a good thing or a bad thing, honestly, because it seems like it's what a lot of people do. seems like it's a pretty commonly accepted practice historically. So I don't know what to really say about it. To me, it seems irresponsible to, like, a lot of people will put it as to shit where you sleep. But if you're working long hours in like a community or a space or industry, and your life revolves around that, where, you know, what does he do? 6 to 8 hour streams, right? That's a good portion of your day. That's a good 1/3 of your day, you know, a fourth to a third of your day. So if that's what you're doing every single day, and then on the times that you're not doing that, you're usually traveling to go and do in-person IRL podcasts and stuff and shows. Well, you don't really have a lot of free time to go and build those connections elsewhere. And sure, you could do hookup apps like, what are they called, Tinder and such. And yeah, you can get people to find on the spot, but oftentimes I'm sure it makes a lot more sense to find people you connect with and have some kind of relatability to, and that makes it a little bit more interesting as a hookup. And so kind of makes sense to tap your own community that you're spending a large portion of your daytime interacting with.
Right.
Yeah, and I'm sure, you know, he enjoys people who he can have like intellectual conversations with as well. And you know, where else are you going to get, you know, where else are you going to get people who can have those types of conversations with you, you know? So, you know, while for me, I may say it's like an unwise thing to do, I wouldn't recommend it, and it's not really like a lifestyle that I would choose. He knows the risks. He has very, like, you know, he's articulated the risks very well before on stream, very publicly, and he's acknowledged that there are, you know, going to be some downsides, but he's willing to accept that, and he, you know, he likes interesting people. So, like, what can I say, right? If he wants to do that, if he's accepting and understanding of, like, you know, what he's entering into, you know, who are any of us to say what he should do, right?
So that's a risk he's just willing to take, basically.
I think so, yeah.
From what it sounds like, something he was saying just not that long ago, this is like a week or two ago, he was saying that he feels more alive and more energized when he has people going after him and making claims about him and allegations and all that. So maybe a part of this has a lot to do with, like, or there isn't much of a deterrent there, let's say, right? Because where a lot of people would be like, I'm tired of this shit, this is a deterrent for me, he's more energized by it.
So he's like an adrenaline junkie.
Yeah.
I almost wonder if it's like an adaptation over time, or maybe he was just built for it. Who knows? But yeah.
Yeah, it was, when he said that, I was just like, well, that explains a lot.
Doctors are holding this newborn baby, and they're like, yeah, he's going to be a debate bro when he grows up. I can just fucking see it in him. He's fucking built for this shit.
Yeah. Do you think that Lav was trying to infiltrate the debate pro community to kind of make a move to try to get high, like to climb above you guys, and maybe even climb above Destiny? Do you think, like, how crazy are we talking with Lav? Is she just insane and she just says stupid things, or was she actually like sociopathic to the point where she was trying to destroy Destiny to get above him?
I think she's super calculating. I don't think there's anything really insane about her. She's very calculating. I think when she's in the middle of, like, because a lot of what she does seems to be around getting people to be impressed with her and to like her. Mm-hmm. And so that results in her saying a lot of things off the cuff, name dropping people, saying that, like, letting people know that she's got dirt on other people in the space or well-known people, right? That's something that she has a pretty consistent pattern of doing. And that's where she's more like a little unhinged. And this is something that she's also talked about a little bit. There's a video of her talking about how she just sometimes will just lie out of nowhere, and she doesn't even know why she does that. And there's also in a conversation that Stardust and Destiny and I all had with her back a few months ago, I pressed her on her just like randomly, like just name dropping people and bringing up dirt about people out of nowhere. And she said that it's a pattern that she's had dealt with her entire life, and she openly admitted to it. So I think that's more the uncontrolled or unhinged part, and so it is in response to those things that she ends up going on the attack and getting aggressive, and also in response to the pushback she gets for having shitty arguments and making very bold claims about things and not being prepared to defend them. But in particular, a lot of her aggressive reaction to things, it's reacting to people calling her on name dropping and dropping supposed dirt on people and such, and that all comes from her seeming to, like, where it's the pattern I've seen, it seems to have to do with getting a community to like her and be impressed with her and seem like she's connected and knows dirt on people, knows intimate life details about people, etc. And so it's not as much about trying to become famous off of it as in trying to get people to look up to her and praise her for being the person who knows all these things. That's the way it looks like to me based on the pattern I've seen. Anyways, sorry for the lengthy.
Yeah, no problem. Stardust?
Yeah, I think it's I will say, like, she was a top OnlyFans creator for a reason, right? She's very, like, people are going to hate me for saying this, but she's very clearly talented at content creation. She's very clearly talented at, like, getting her name out there and marketing and generating an audience for her stuff, whether that's negative or positive, right? And in a way, having a lot of anti-fans that, that, like, people who hate you are just fans, right? In a different sense. So she is really good at that. I can't say that I know what her goals are, especially, like, within the debate space. But I think Zonia is pretty spot on with that. So
okay. Do you think like there's a lot of and there's some that are genuine, but there's a lot of grifting in, like, the why I left the left or why I left the right. Do you think her leaving sex work is a grift? Do you think she actually wanted to leave sex work, or did you think that she was trying to make a move in the sense that maybe this will make some money if I become, like, a virtuous person against sex work?
That's a tough one because she's made two different statements about it. Initially, when she was, I think her arguments against sex work were really sound originally. But like a month or two, maybe 2 months after her whole leaving OnlyFans and the little stream tour she did over it, she went back to doing sex work, but from her Patreon. And she got criticized for it, and she had two defenses for it at the time. One was that she enjoyed the sex work, but she didn't want to be doing it for someone else, like for OnlyFans, where a place like that where they both take a bunch of the money from her and also try to incentivize other young women to join and become sex workers. So that was one argument. The other argument was that it provided her extra cash because people were saying, well, isn't your CMO fiance taking care of you? And she said, yeah, but I don't want to depend on him. And the sex work does give me extra money to buy things like costume material and such for the cosplays that I like to do. So those are the two arguments that she gave for that. So she enjoyed it and that it gave her extra money. So, and now her story on that has shifted since then. So it's not, I don't really know where she actually stands with it, but I honestly believe that she thinks that sex work is harmful. And I don't think she's making that one up. Her ability to clearly communicate why it is that she believes that seems to be a bit lacking. So it looks oftentimes like a grift, especially considering that she's flip-flopped on the issue a couple times. But if you really take a look at her individual statements that she's made over time, I think she's genuine about being against sex work.
Were there allegations that she went back to sex work in between while doing the I left the sex work thing, or has she always stayed true to I'm anti-sex work and I don't do it anymore?
I don't think there were any allegations other than just she got back to doing sex work 2 months after that. So that 2-month period, as far as I know, there weren't any allegations of her going back into sex work.
Okay.
There was a claim that she made about one of the times when she like was, I think, still doing it, or like still continuing to make money off of it, that it was she was only going to do sex work that was educational or something like that, which was weird. And then she was talking about how
what does that mean?
That was-
This is where the vagina is, guys. Like that educational, like what?
She was talking about like steaming your vagina and shit like that, and and some of the stuff that she like will talk about, like the yoni soap and all of this other stuff is like legit kind of like pseudoscience, stuff that would make any like GYN cringe, basically, right? Like this steaming your vagina and shit like that. So
yeah, and her weird
Yeah.
statement about doing like, and that was the other thing. Her statement about it being educational sex work came toward the end of like a lot of pressure that she was getting with Chud Logic and a few others confronting her about going back into sex work. She kind of like, it seemed to me when I went over it back then, it seemed like it was sort of like a last ditch effort to downplay her sex work, because she was trying to claim at the end of that conversation that the majority of her viewers were other women who were there seeking out her educational sex work, which didn't really seem realistic considering the kind of content that she had and it was putting out. It seemed like she had made that up as like a last ditch fabrication to downplay the sex work that she was doing. Okay. And at the time she had also deleted all of her her Patreon uploads right before she was confronted. Like they were right around that time that she was confronted. And Chud Logic didn't find that out until after the conversation ended. Then people were showing the difference in the archived snapshots before and after. And he was like, she just completely fucking lied. She just deleted it right before the conversation, deleted all the uploads to Patreon, and then lied her way through the conversation. So I won't grant much. I will not grant much charitability to what it is that she's saying about doing educational sex work.
Yeah, if I can just say as well, like I have listened to some of the stuff that she'll like claim about like female bodies and stuff like that, and like you really should take the stuff that she says with a grain of salt, because she has said a lot of inaccurate things. She has talked about like a soap that has actually led to like cases of like infection in some women who use it in their private area. And from a brand, by the way, that is generally like makes most professionals in the medical industry like just roll in their sleep essentially. So yeah.
Okay. There are also allegations that she was going around like striking videos down. Is that true or not?
Yeah, she's actually openly admitted to it several times.
Okay. And was it Chud Logic or was anyone else?
Chud Logic. She actually said she's going to report every single one of his videos, and she did a personal information takedown on one of his videos. I think it was regarding her. It had the picture of her fiance in the thumbnail, if I recall correctly. And it mentioned him by name at some point in the video. And so she had it taken down as leaking private information or something like that, which this isn't true at all. She's been very public, not just in Discords, on her TikToks about her boyfriend or fiance and who he works for and what his position with the company is, and has said his name several times over. We've seen him in TikTok videos with her. Right. So it's all very public information. But yeah, she was striking. I don't know about striking, but getting them taken down. And she reported them for leaking private information and for something, there was 2 different things that she reported them under, but I don't remember what the second one was. I just remember the private information one.
Gotcha.
As far as I know, no copyright takedowns, so they're not like copyright strikes or anything like that. They're reports.
Just privacy complaints, basically.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, harassment, I think, was one of them.
Okay.
Harassment.
Gotcha. Okay. There was this drama that was popping up in my feed, and I didn't understand it at all, and had to do with that guy Sick, and her recently. Does anyone know anything about that?
Yeah.
He was in DMs with her back a year ago, and seemed to be a little infatuated with her, and was sending her what he claims were like suggestions and advice on how it is that she can better entice her fiance. But if from what everybody is telling me, and because I'm not a good reader on this stuff, honestly, but from what everybody is telling me, it seems like he was kind of getting off sending her salacious sexts and suggesting some kind of like kinky sexual engagement.
Okay.
I'm not a good read on these things. I'm about the worst possible read there is on these things, so I'm kind of having to go on everybody else's assessment of it.
Yeah, personally, when I listened to his explanation of the situation, it made a lot of sense to me. It didn't seem like, probably, it seemed to me that probably some part of him probably like was excited by the stuff that he was typing with her, but for the most part, like from his side of the story, it seems like she was pretty much asking people for advice with her and her fiance, I guess. And he was offering advice after she had asked publicly for it. And that seemed to, it lined up, like the messages lined up with what he was explaining. I think he made a video on it. But again, I know I could be wrong as well. So
he did a manifesto, so not a video.
Manifesto, my bad. Yeah.
Yeah, and like for me, I don't really care. It's like whatever. Like at the time, there wasn't any real reason for those of us who were interacting with her to think anything horrible about her, to think that she was like a manipulative person or dangerous or anything. So, not that big of a deal. Now it does color. So here's the thing. It does color his documentary in an interesting light, because it almost, if you look at the play-by-play from that period, which is around like May of last year, I think, to his documentary, which was like November, and he had been working on the documentary for a while at that point, and you look at the play-by-play between her and him at the time, it looks like the documentary is almost revenge for her spurning him. But when I was digging into it, that's like the way, so like a lot of people were trying to pick up that narrative, and I think that's the narrative that she wanted picked up as well. So when I looked into it, I didn't really see that. If you look at it from like a high level, you look at it, just with like a few details and stuff, and kind of pay attention to the narrative that she was kind of constructing, it can look that way. But it seemed to me like over time, little by little, he started to learn more and more about her, and started to realize, wait, there's something going on here, and just autistically started digging into it, and then eventually decided to turn that into a documentary or an expose. That's the way it kind of looks from my reading of it. I could be biased in that. But either way, I think the documentary overall is pretty sound. There are a couple parts in there that I think were probably shouldn't have been. He shouldn't have implied what he implied, but overall, I think like 90+% of what's in there is pretty well sourced, well substantiated, and doesn't really matter what the motive was behind it. I think it's good information for us to have aggregated into one video.
Gotcha.
I tend to agree with that.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So is Lav a TERF, or is she playing a TERF? Like, is she changing her personality to be like the? Because I saw her on the Whatever podcast. She had the beret on. It looked like she was playing a role to me. Do you think she
Yeah, she
actually
does that.
stands by that, or do you think she's playing a role?
So she's definitely big into the LARP, right? That was something she did after the fallout with Destiny in November. When her next stream appearance that she did, she actually was basically seemed to be mirroring Max's or Mr. Girl's aesthetic with the dark room, with like the minimal lighting, glasses, subdued kind of way of dressing, subdued way of behaving, and so she seems to like very much into dressing for whatever part she wants to play at that moment. So like the whatever podcast appearance, I think that was a very intentional signaling that she was doing, and she's done that pretty consistently as well in whenever she's kind of pushing some sort of new narrative or new political view. She seems to dress the part at the time when she's doing it. Now, with her actual beliefs, that one's I'm sus on her being like, I think a lot of her politics is a reaction to the ways in which people have responded to her behavior. And part of the reason why I think that is because she's not very good at arguing why it is she has the positions that she has. Like typically, if you were to ask me why it is that I believe in certain progressive values, I could explain to you the cause and effect and how it is that I came to that understanding myself. But she doesn't really seem to have that. Like her explanation to me as to how it is she became a gender critical rad femme was she told me that it was after she had read Andrea Dworkin. But she wasn't able to explain to me the reasoning behind it. It was just like, oh, Andrea Dworkin. It's just this essayist. I read her and I peaked as a rad femme and became a gender critical rad femme. But then, like a month later, I listened to her on a Twitter space talking about radical feminism, and she explains to them. And sorry, I left out a piece. And when she told me that had to do with her reading Andrea Dworkin, she said that it was over the previous 2 months that she had come to the realization by reading Andrea Dworkin. And this is, by the way, recorded. It's up there. It's documented. And so the Twitter space that I listened to her on, like a month later, she claims that she had secretly been a gender critical rad femme for at least 2 years, but was afraid to come out about it. And so she's never really got any kind of way of explaining how she came to this and like giving examples, cause, effect, where she sees harms created by this thing or reduced by this thing. She can't walk me through the pathway of it. She can't walk anybody through it. She always has some kind of like simple answer. Oh, I was always this way, and I just had to grow the courage for it. Oh, I read Andrea Dworkin. It's like these really, really simple surface level kind of things. And so I feel like she doesn't actually understand this stuff. And then she came out with this video most recently. If you've gone over her video essay that she released about gender identity just a couple weeks ago, in there, if you pay attention to it, she's just copy pasting summaries and excerpts from Wikipedia for a whole portion of the feminist theory that she's quoting. And this isn't even, I would not, because like if you want me to explain to you like Andrea Dworkin feminist theory or or Butler feminist theory, I can actually walk you through what their philosophical view of the world is and how it is that they view things like gender and why they view them the way that they do. You're not going to find me going and finding like a synopsis on Wikipedia and copy pasting that and using that, because that's not a very good representation of the why of the things or the how of the things. Mm-hmm. That's a very oversimplified representation of the high level. This is what is believed, not why it's believed or how they got to that belief. And so that tells me that she doesn't understand any of this stuff. That she doesn't actually have a depth of understanding of it.
In fairness, I don't understand any of it at all either. So.
Well, but if you're going to claim these things in like you, you want it to be, and you want these to be foundational beliefs, it should be more than just like programmatic parroting of synopses from Wikipedia.
Yeah.
There should be way more to it than that.
Gotcha.
And so in the way I read that video is it seems to me like her way of building back to her behavior. It is a post hoc rationalization for her behavior and the way that she has treated trans people over the past several months since January, roughly. And it's basically a way to sort of justify her bigotry toward trans people. And it's not based in any true fundamental understanding of any kind of feminist theory at all. It's just a post hoc rationalization by copy pasting a whole ton of Wikipedia and then reading it off as though you read the theory.
Okay.
Yeah. And one thing I would say, just to add on, is I agree with Zonia. A lot of this like a post hoc rationalization for her being really shitty to trans women, but also I would say, she seems to overwhelmingly, in my opinion, do things that attack other women. I don't know that I believe her when she says that she's a feminist more than I don't know. I don't know that I believe that she really does. Like, people will call her a man hater, right? I really don't think she's a man hater. I think she is most important thing to her is male attention, really. So
and this is something she's openly admitted to several times.
Yeah.
We got that excellent video of her talking about how she needs men to obsess over her.
Yeah. She's, in my opinion, I don't view her as a feminist. I think she just overwhelmingly hates women and trans women especially. And I think she tries to like paint herself as a feminist, but really not.
I don't know if she hates women, but women are her targets.
Sure.
I would say that she definitely seems to hate trans women.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. She hates trans women and she dislikes and targets women. So yeah.
All right, last question. If you had any advice for Lav in her situation now, what would it be?
God, I've given so much advice to Lav and it's never been accepted.
Well, let's say, what would you do if you were in Lav's position right now?
I would do some personal exploration into understanding why it is that I do the things that I do and try to become comfortable with myself and accepting myself and not trying to seek validation from others, particularly men. Find a way to become comfortable with accepting and validating yourself on your own, and so that you're not as eager to want to try to find ways to impress people and make people validate you and praise you or obsess over you, etc. Find your personal independence, find your autonomy, live for yourself.
Mm-hmm. Stardust?
I think that's really solid advice from Zonia. I would say, maybe take a step back from all the fighting. Fighting can be addictive, and if she is an adrenaline junkie like other people we know, she's probably a little bit addicted to it at this point. Find her own independence. She's very clearly talented in a lot of different aspects. And she could use that to her advantage in the future, but you want to use that kind of stuff meaningfully. And I don't see much meaning right now coming out of it.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else that you guys wanted to go into before I end?
There was something missed earlier that I was thinking I should bring up and say, but I don't remember what it was.
Oh, okay. No big deal.
Oh, geez. I think it has something to do with big tech and her talking to big tech.
Girl?
Yeah. Oh, that's what it was. That the thing that sort of a big sort of a point where I started to recognize the pattern of her dropping dirt on people and doing it to impress people was with the big tech thing, because that I didn't really understand the details of until months later, because that whole thing happened like in late November, early December, something like that. It wasn't until Destiny and Star and I all ended up in that conversation with Lav a few months ago, and Steven explained what it was that she had leaked to big tech, because we didn't know, we didn't know all the details of it. What we knew at the time was that Lav had leaked to big tech that she had had sex with Destiny, or had a sexual relationship with Destiny. That was what we knew at the time. And we knew that because it was Ethan Ralph who leaked it to the public. He leaked it to Twitter and explained the chain of events roughly. Mm-hmm. And so that's what we knew at the time. What we didn't know were the details, which came out later, that she was talking with big tech about Destiny's privates and how it made her feel. And that was where I had noticed like it all kind of connected. And I looked back and realized, holy shit, like she just goes, and sometimes with real information and sometimes just with made up information, will go and just drop these private personal bombs on people to impress them and to make them like her. And that was what she did with big tech, to sort of earn his trust and get him to like her, I think. That's what it seemed to me. And the same thing with like what she did with us when she dropped it on us in Chud's Discord about like Hassan sleeping with her quote 17-year-old friend. And various other incidents like that. Same thing, like in the middle of that conversation that we had, when out of the blue, she claims, which this was not true at all, that she claims that Pixie had sex with Destiny. It seems to me like so much of this is built around getting people to think that she, like I mentioned earlier, has all the information and is knowledgeable, right? And so that was the turning point. It was the big tech thing, and that what she had leaked to big tech. And months later, I learned more of the details of what it was. I connected that pattern and understood that. That was the thing I wanted to clarify earlier. I completely forgot because we got off on a bit of a tangent from there. And so that, I think, is sort of like the most validating thing for me in terms of understanding her motivations and why she does the things she does, and why at the very end here, as the suggestion, she should come to her own independence, stop caring about getting the approval and validation of others, stop trying to impress them, be comfortable with herself, be independent and autonomous, and validate herself. Right. That's where I kind of connected all the dots at that point for the understanding that aspect of her. But anyways, yeah, lengthy way of explaining it, but it was something I thought of earlier. I was like, wait, I should clarify this, because I don't want to I don't want it to be like I'm just talking out my ass. Like, I've got relevant points that I'll connect very soundly to kind of give you my reasoning behind these things.
Right. Stardust, anything that you wanted to say?
No, I think Zonia said it all, really.
Okay.
So,
all right.
Yeah.
I did want to ask Stardust, how are things going with the Thorpe family? Are they still around, or are they dropped off, or what?
They're still around. I have been on vacation though, so I haven't been interacting with them as much. But yeah, they're still around. I believe Ben Thorpe just did a stream today where he was cooking. So yeah, and he recently got a haircut, which makes him look like a divorced guy trying to get back into his game. So
do you think that's all a character, or do you think he's like legit psychotic and possibly incestuous?
I think that there is a very clear lack of like appropriate boundaries between him and his children. And just from the video that I saw of him harassing his son and his whole family harassing his son, there's something very wrong there. I can't say whether there's something incestuous going on because I just don't know enough, but there's a lot of very alarming stuff to me. The fact that he is completely okay with this Formaxer guy telling his daughter to put her underwear in her mouth or lick her underwear is just disgusting to me. So yeah, there's something very wrong. Yeah.
That's a great way to end it. Stardust, Zonia, thank you so much for coming on. We greatly appreciate it. I think our audience will get a pretty good, a lot of good context on who Lav is and what the issue with Lav is. Because all we really see her is like this lol cow who keeps pissing off Destiny. So it's good to have a little more details about the situation. But thank you so much for coming on, ladies. And hopefully the podcast will be out in a week. And I'll let you guys know.
Thanks for having us on.
Yes.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye. All right. So there you go.
I'm so confused.
Look,
Motherfucker, what was that? That was the biggest waste of time I've ever done. I don't understand anything, bro. Nothing. I
gave you a video. I gave you a video.
I don't know who these people are.
I gave you a video.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I have left more confused than I was when I entered.
All right. I'll answer the questions. Ask me questions. I'll answer them. Fuck it. Let's do that.
I have no questions.
Exactly. Exactly. You have no questions. You don't want to ask the questions. Like, what do you want from me?
What do you
I have
mean
a question.
I don't want to ask the questions. We run a comedy fucking podcast. We just had 2 people on that sucked the life out of any room that they're in. There wasn't you told me to come in here and make jokes, snipe and make a sex joke. There was not a single opportunity. There was zero.
To be fair, it wasn't Stardust. It was mostly the Zonia, that other one, the Zonia.
Like, what do you want me to do?
Zonia.
There was nothing.
I ask questions, they answer questions. I ask questions, they answer a question.
Okay, I have a question. Why should we care?
Yeah.
I mean, because like the lab shit's pretty funny. There's like
it didn't sound funny.
At one point, At one point, she tweeted out a picture of her vagina while she's in the bathtub, and there's
why did we bring that up?
Yeah, Matt. Oh my god.
There's like specks of period blood.
It was literally just a conversation about radical feminism and Destiny puts his dick in crazy.
Yeah, that's why I was thinking like you guys would come in.
I can get behind that.
You know, fucking. I don't know. Like I ask the questions, they answer. Like they're intellectuals. They talk more like that. All right, that's how they do things. We do things more like we say fucking, slurs and call each other retard. Like we're dumb. So it doesn't mix very well, but still, like it gives all the context to like the lab stuff. It
mixes like water and oil.
You don't know anything.
I feel like I should have just stayed off and took a nap, bro.
I think so too. I think you're right. I think I made a.
You made a mistake.
You made a terrible judgment call with this podcast. Not for the podcast itself, but for the fact that you were like,
you have to be there.
Mitch is going to come on here. He's going to tell some turf jokes. You're going to come on here. You can tell some sex jokes. Okay, everybody, plan. All right, execution, absolutely fucking awful. And that's also on you.
In the intro, Matt, you really stuck that landing too. You went, welcome, ladies. I couldn't let that slide by.
Right. Look, they were very nice though. Can we at least say they were very nice and good guests?
They were great guests.
Yeah,
they were great guests.
Zonia,
and for people that enjoy debate, bro, kind of shit, right? I'm sure that is very entertaining. And for the minute part of our audience that's into that, we got you, fam. But for the rest of you, I'm sure we'll have something next week.
Yeah. Look, Zonia was very informative. You know what? I'm gonna schedule those 2 retards to debate each other. I'm gonna do that. But yeah, I'm not talking. No. Wait. Someone to people who are listening for the first time. When I said 2 retards, I'm not talking about Zonia and Stardust. I'm talking about another 2 retards that wanted to come on here and battle. All right, so I'm not calling. Zonia was very informative. Beavers is an asshole. That's his thing. Mitch doesn't know what's going on. That's his thing.
And today nobody did.
And D-Max was not here. Usually he's a good backup.
Oh my fucking god! If D-Max was here and he actually engaged in this conversation, I would have left. I was. If we had continued this any longer than it was, I was literally sitting here in the last 10 minutes, thinking to myself, we might stream later, so let me go make something to eat. I can quickly go shower. I'm sure they won't need me.
You could have.
There was a point where I was thinking in my head, I just wanted to say, I thought about DMing you, but I didn't want you to take the wrong way. I thought about just saying, just leave, Beavers. I know you want to leave. Just leave. And I'm thinking the whole time.
I think the best part of this episode has been since they left.
Well, I'm thinking the whole time because I can just see it in my head. Beaver's just getting madder and madder, and I'm thinking like he's going to flip out on them. This is going to be bad. It's going to be bad.
He should have done that.
No. Shit. I don't know. Look, if you're listening at the end, ladies, we're not shit talking you. Thank you so much for coming on. Beavers is shit talking you. I'm not shit talking them. I'm just saying that oil and water. I'm sure the debate, like I said, for the debate bros in our chat, like we've released like 76 or 77 episodes at this point. That has just been pure retardation. For those of you that are intellectuals, we got you this time around. Next week, back to regular scheduled programming. Oh my gosh. All right. Well, let me fucking anything else? Oh, let me finish the story of the fucking lab thing. She took a picture of her vagina in the bathtub with specks of period blood like just floating in the water. And she's supposed to say like dried up black period blood. And she's supposed to like say like look how beautiful this is. And then they reported her for like gore or something.
See, that's what we cover on now recording. That right there is what we cover.
I will be honest, I kind of had the idea of to get more into the Discord stuff, but I kind of started to understand, like, I don't know how much they know about the Spurgy Discord stuff, or are they willing to talk about it? It was obvious that they were on a different plane than us.
They are on a different wavelength.
They're on a higher wavelength than us, you know? Bro, she started talking about rad feminist books and shit. I'm just like, I don't understand any of this. I don't get
If
it
any
at all.
of you understand it in chat, please do let us know. Use simple words, please. When writing, think of Mitch.
Is there like a test or something these quote unquote intellectuals have to take to earn that label? Or can just anyone be like, well, I'm an intellectual, blah blah.
Yeah. You heard Stardust. Don't appeal to your own authority. Don't fucking pretend you're the expert and you'll be fine. I think that's.
But they all do that. Anyone who calls himself an intellectual is calling themselves some kind of authority.
Yeah, Mitch. Mitch. Me and you, small brain. Let's not try and get there. Let's just say where we are.
I'm not. I'm just saying, why would anyone want to be a self-proclaimed intellectual? It's just the wankiest fucking title you could give yourself.
I don't know.
No, you're on the internet. Know your fucking place. You probably didn't even go to university.
You know what? I'm replacing both of you with Hugin. Hugin would have asked questions.
Oh, Hugin would have been great.
Yo, Hugin's a retard. Fuck off.
You, Hugin, and D-Max could have had a field day with this one.
I'm getting. It's gonna be me, Hugin, and Salvo, the new co-host in our recording.
Oh god, that's like some sort of hellscape alternate timeline.
Hugin, Salvo, and Milltown's best.
Imagine if Hugin was around early enough to be in the tournament. I would have loved to see that.
Oh, bro, I was watching their stream earlier. They want us to replace Mitch, so
what?
That kind of. Yeah,
no, I'm replacing all of you.
That's fine. That's fine.
What stream? What stream?
Oh, Milltown's best stream.
No, we'll talk about. I mean, we're gonna do a member stream, so we'll talk about that on there.
Oh, we'll talk about that there. But technically, fuck you, Mitch. They want you gone.
Yeah, they want.
It's the synopsis.
All right.
They hate you, and you're not alone. They hate D-Max as well. So
yeah, and
they're starting not to like me either. So you know,
they like me though.
Yeah.
Yeah, and what does that fucking say?
Hugin went from I like them all but Matt to I like them all but Mitch to I like them all but Max and Mitch to I don't like any of them except Beavers.
Okay, well, by the time this episode comes out, that member stream will have been done, and you can go and you can watch it, become a member, watch the replay.
Yeah, we'll also probably end up talking about it on another show as well. But yeah, anyways, thank you so much for joining us. If you're not into this, you know, we get it. More Spurg stuff ahead. But if you are into this, like Beaver said, nice little treat. You get to listen to your favorite debate sisters, debate sisters.
And let us know in the chat if you're into this, because that means that me and Mitch still get paid, and we can take like once every 3 weeks off and just let Matt do something.
Shout out to
yeah, the bad with monies. Get the bad with monies.
Yeah, I don't have a joke. I don't have a joke for it. Destiny. We all know Destiny is bad with women, but he is not bad with money. But those who are bad with
You might
money
be.
are Always Zero, Bunny Button, Panic Pun, Everborn, Fanfiction Narrator, Fresh Brewski, Mame, and Stefan Corbino. Thanks so much for being bad with money. If you want to be bad with money, get your name said after every stream or episode. You can pay $15.99 and you will get your name said. If that's a little too much, because yes, it kind of is, you can become a Beaver Lover, which will get you priority calls for $10.99 a month. So every stream we do, you pop in a priority call. You will be the first to be pulled in. If that's a little too much, we also have Stumpies. That gets you access to membership streams, as well as the Discord server, which is behind a paywall. And that's only $5.99 or $4.99 a month. So there you go. Any last words, gentlemen, before we go?
Yeah, we should have another new tier above bad with money, and we call it bad with cummies. I don't know what the rewards are.
Can we do like 3 different like shows? Me, you with the intellectuals, me, the normal crew with normal shit, and then can we just have Mitch off on his own island? I think in terms of intellect, I think we've nailed it. I think that's the only way it makes sense.
I should have DM'd you, Beavers, and I was like, yo, on the count of 3, we'll leave, and leave Mitch with the...
Just go for like a good 5 minutes and see where he takes it.
I was
We don't
thinking,
even
Link
ask him how
continues.
it
There will
goes.
be no stream ever again.
I
It'll
was-
just be nothing.
I was like, what if my internet goes out and they're left with Zonia and Stardust are left with? I'm thinking like, I'm gonna come back to like Beavers calling them cunts, and like Mitch is like, I don't know what happened. All right. Well, I mean, if you got to the end, it got pretty entertaining there. So, anyways, now recording is always recording. Boop, boop, boop.
I want to see the retention on this one.
I'm gonna put in the like maybe in the title like watch till the end.
Put a time
You won't
code
believe
when
what
they
happened.
leave. Put a time code when they leave, and then watch the retention.